Welcome to the Three Seeds Natives podcast, where we believe it takes 3 seeds to germinate great ideas.
Seeds 1 and 2 are Stephanie.
Hello, and Elizabeth.
Yo.
And seed 3 is a guest or even a plant with a story.
Let's dive into the curious and fascinating world of native plants.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
It's season 2, episode 1 of the Three Seeds Natives podcast.
Yeah, and we're kicking it off with Julia Bunn,
landscape designer, owner, founder of The Spirited Gardener. And we are really excited to talk to her because she brings a lot of knowledge, not just about how to make your yard look pretty, but really how to, I would say, like foster a deeper connection to your yard.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah. So Julia,
welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
Thrilled to talk with you. So maybe to get it started, could you tell us the concept behind The Spirited Gardener?
Ooh, okay. The Spirited Gardener actually launched first as a TV show that ran on WTTW for one time. In other words, we did the pilot, and then it was 2008. And forget it, nobody had money, nothing was going to be happening on TV. The media was really not being invested in anymore. It was just like the beginning of the end of whatever was more creative or available for people. My goal, I had the episodes all marked out, and I was so fascinated by native gardens and stuff, and it was all about connection to the earth through our gardens and how important that is and how it's been a spiritual practice for many communities. I think our times have changed so much that sort of the spiritual aspect of life is getting lost. And I think that helps us connect because there's something bigger than all of us that keeps us all together. And I don't know what it is. And that's kind of one of the fun explorations of life, right? And certainly getting to be in the garden, I always think these plants are alive. And, we are like plants that kind of learned how to pull our roots up and be able to walk around carrying our own water and taking our nutrition in a different way than another plant. But, it's like we all evolved on this planet from this certain structure, and that's science. I love the combination of art and science, too. Like there's a history and, connection.
So that's how you decided you were calling the series The Spirited Gardener, and then you decided, okay.
Correct. And then I said, I'm not going to be producing any TV shows anytime soon. And I realized how much I just really enjoyed the process of making gardens. I started as an artist, and I did paintings of landscapes with a twist is one of the things I would talk about it. And I was always talking about ecological issues, and I was always addressing these ecological and environmental issues when I was doing my paintings. I was paired with one other artist who was a truly ecologically, environmentally wise woman who did Roku pottery. And she created about a box size of garbage a year from her household because she was so, she grew her own food. And I just went, I am put to shame. Here I am, making all these big issue paintings about the environment and using batteries for things to automate things and painting with acrylic paints. And I was going, this is so environmentally toxic. It's and it was I really need to get to the base core of this thing. And life begins with working with life. The earth has been dying because of what we're doing to it. And how do we really turn that around? It's 1 yard at a time, let's go for it. And it was perfect. So, because I love people, I'm social.
And so it really was one garden at a time that you started to build up this practice?
Yeah, definitely. And it was I always would joke to people, number one, I ran out of space in my yard, so I had to do it somewhere else. The other one was that I used to paint paintings to make gardens people wanted to buy, but I sit around waiting for people to buy it. And I realized, oh, if I make a garden, people will pay me to make it. And then maybe someone will come and paint that, and that'd be nice. But I don't have to. I can assure myself an income, and because one good friend of mine, because I know quite a few artists, said, a poor artist is a stupid artist. We're creative. Why not be able to earn a living wage and be creative in the world? It's the creativity in this world that makes all the cool new stuff. Who came up with the beautiful blue rimmed glasses? It was a creative act by somebody, and they got paid for doing that. So it's like, that's what I'm talking about. Through the process of growing older and everything, I've become much less cynical and a lot more compassionate towards my fellow human beings. And doing gardens and doing it with other people together, collaborating, is part of that wonderful process of healing the world, one garden at a time, right?
So if there's one thing that you feel like you would like people to understand about native gardening, like, what would that be? Sorry, that's such a absolutist kind of question, but
that's a good question. Well, one of the keywords I like to use for my business is ecoFUNctional. It's important to understand how plants help us. And I think one of my favorite focuses became managing water with plants, and that making rain gardens and utilizing that water as a resource and not throwing it away, and making sure that we keep the functionality of the system intact and working better, since we've already done so much disturbance. And so it's like I love going onto a property and saying to people, they go, oh, we got this flooding problem. And I said, well, first of all, if the rainwater's coming off your house, and they go, no, but it's all coming from the neighbor. I said, yeah, that too, but you've got it coming from your downspouts. Oh, there's 2 downspouts. How many? And you can actually calculate it from this wonderful app you can get online called the Rain Garden Alliance Rain Garden Calculator. If you want to know the quantity of water you have to manage coming off of those downspouts, here you go. Boom. You can say this many square feet, it's going to be 352 gallons of water in a 2-inch rain event. Wow. Okay, so how much space do you need to allow that to pond, as you will? You do it in a flat surface at about 4 inches, and the water, even in heavy clay, can be infiltrated in collaboration with the plant's roots and the system growing. It takes a couple years sometimes for it to become totally effective, but you can be sure, if you measure it correctly, you're never going to have a mosquito problem. But you're utilizing the rain molecules that have fallen in the region for eons. So instead of having that rainwater somehow go down your sidewalk and into the stormwater system and then get shipped into the bigger overages that happen in the region, and then all of a sudden it's going down the Mississippi River and creating problems down there with phosphorus or whatever we put in our grass and stuff.
Well, let me just clarify that. So you said 4 inches. Are you talking about regrading your land in such a way that you create a depression of like 4 inches deep? Correct. Within a certain amount of area?
You've got it, Elizabeth. Yeah. And the really cool part about that is if you take your grass out with the roots,
you're there.
It's there. It's not even like you have to go wild with it. But
we are planting within that. We are putting plants in there?
Yes, definitely. You're going to put native plants because they're adapted to this region. They're used to this, what you would call a mesic situation. You can have like the spring rains when it's wetter and soggier, and then it can get drier, and they're adaptive that way. They can take it when it's droughtier. But of course, when we have droughts like we did at the end of the summer this year, you still want to give some TLC to the garden. Every once in a while, throw some water that way. But it's nothing like keeping a lawn
irrigated.
Yeah, and water.
Are you able, the way you've done it for yourself personally, have you been able in those drought periods to use like your rain bucket or your... Or capture? Have you captured it in buckets as well? And then
I've gone through.
Oh, like a rain barrel?
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's the old word.
The rain barrels.
Bucket.
I went through a rain barrel era. Yeah, but I think part of it is simplicity and utility, right? So it's like if you are the kind of person that wants to take the time and do that, it works. And if not, it's like if you're emptying the water straight into your rain garden anyways, you don't have to save it.
Oh, right.
You're sending it into the natural cycle that it would naturally
That's
be
how
in.
you're doing your downspouts?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do, but you can collect the water. But if you do want to collect the water, if you want to use it for your food gardens, you have to make sure there's a filter on it, because there's the first 7 liters of water. I don't know. I read about it in liters. So that come off of a rooftop after it's been dry for a while with pollution is not going to be a good water mix to put on your food garden. But you can, if there are special filters you can buy to put into the system, and so that first bit can be filtered out, and you can still use all that rain barrel water easily to take care of your food gardens too.
So that does add a little layer of complexity to the rain barrel thing.
And but if you're just doing it on plain, just your garden, then no problem with the filter and stuff. But how many people really
Save, change that filter and clean that
filter? Or even if you don't put the filter in, you have to empty the rain barrel every 4 days or something,
Right, so it doesn't get algae and whatever.
Right, and you can use mosquito dunks in your tank, in your thing, and you can also put them in other storage systems too.
I have a question about water and rain and climate change.
Yeah.
So, are you noticing any new patterns or trends with the way homeowners are experiencing rain?
Oh yeah, there's these heavy duty rains that come in, and they're like shockingly like, oh my God, the water used to always flood there, but now it came all the way up to my back patio. That's because, for instance, if you have grass, once the 4-inch grass root area is saturated with rains, it becomes like a slick, it could just be as much as concrete, the way that the water moves off the property and off the grass, right? So the beauty of putting in rain gardens, rain swales, you can interrupt that flow too. You don't have to necessarily make the whole front yard a rain garden. You can make sections of it rain gardens and allow overflow to go to different places. I mean, I just love the creativity of it and how the simplicity of water just moves to the lowest spot. So you can grade, and it's a simple thing to do.
Yeah.
And you can also be creative with it and playful with it, and you can make like little dry riverbeds, and you can move the water a little bit over here. If you want to take more water in, you can actually make it so that there's a deeper ponding area, and you can take plants that like even more heavy rain if it stays kind of wet in that area by propensity as a part of the property, and you kind of go, oh, you could actually put rainwater plants in that part of the garden. But I haven't gone that route yet. I haven't done a garden like that with somebody yet. Okay. But hey, it might happen.
What would you say are like the basic tenets that make up a rain garden? We talked about like diversion.
Oh, there's 3 great words. So you want to slow it down, you want to spread it out, and then you want to infiltrate it.
Infiltrate it, huh?
Yeah.
With what?
Roots.
Roots.
Oh, okay.
You got it. Oh, Elizabeth, yes. Do you need a job? I've got an opening for next year. No. So yeah, it is. It's like the beauty of plants is that they actually create, especially like sedges. There's different root sort of styles amongst the plants, if you will. They create like a sponge under the ground. Sedges,
They're spongy.
Oh, they're very spongy.
I love sedges.
Yeah, sedges are
I'm
divine,
hot to trot for
and
sedges.
they are like so. They're such an ecoFUNctional plant there, in that family of plants, you've got everything from taking sunshine to going into the deep shade and still being able to manage that water and grow that root system, which is like, yes, that's what we want. And so, and grasses as well. There's certain grasses that can kind of are more flexible, can be in different areas. And then the other piece that's important is allowing for overflow. So if you have your design, for instance, for a 2-inch rain garden, and it means that the garden is going to be as big as this basement room, right? So because it was a big roof mass that's throwing off this water, and the clay soils do not infiltrate as rapidly. I think we were looking. One client was asking us, how soon is this going to be going in? And we did some research. Cornell University said it's 0.2 inches an hour that clay will take in.
Oh, that is so good to know.
Soil.
Wow.
It will take in the water. And that's like without having good infiltration. That's a fairly good infiltrating clay, one that hasn't been compacted by construction, or there's like so many nuances to that, and you have to rebuild a lot of soils on suburban properties because the builders can just be so damaging to the profile. And it's less cost if you just take the environment that you have and plant right into it and let nature go. And then if you have to add more plant material the next year, you do. You want to make sure you have, I always put leaf mulch in when I have a first initial planting. After that, I allow the leaf cover from the fall drop and stuff to do its work. In the spring, if you have a couple new tender plants that are just getting started, you might want to remove just a little bit of the litter by hand, just take it out off of where
so they don't get suffocated kind of?
Yeah, but you don't have to attend to it too terribly much. A lot of it just comes right through again because that's the way it evolved, right? This is the way nature has always worked.
But when you talk about putting leaf mulch in, that terminology, are you also saying just lay the leaves or leaf mulch on top, or are you tilling it in?
You try not to till because when you use a rototiller on clay soils, it actually creates a dead pan. It actually like slicks out and closes up that structure of the clay. So as much as possible, we work just by hand. Like we might use a auger to go into plant plugs, or we have a big broad fork that we use to just kind of get the soil loosened up so that we can get in there and plant the plants. But it's all depending on the soil, right? Yeah. I mean, a lot of my clients are here in the Evanston area and on the North Shore are sandy-based soils. And so that's just the opposite kind of problem, right? It like nothing gets held there. And again, leaf mulch is the magic. You can buy it already processed. You have to watch. Sometimes people have seen jumping worm in the leaf mulch.
Can you talk about what jumping worm is? Because I don't know if everybody knows.
Oh yeah. Jumping worm is it's an invasive worm that does its work at the surface, and it actually eats all the nutrient-rich plant material that's dead and in there, and doesn't leave a very useful poop. Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. It's so like coffee grounds.
Despite eating all that nutritious stuff,
they don't share. They don't share the wealth.
That's not cool.
No.
The best composting worms are the red worms or the red wigglers? Or
yeah, that's one kind of worm. Yeah.
But the jumping worm sounds like
the jumping worms. They get spread around by humans a little bit, but also a lot by birds and stuff. It's got an incredibly like many invasive organisms. It has incredible ability to reproduce without having to have sex. So they do asexual reproduction. They just kind of clone themselves.
And how do you know if you have jumping worm in your...
They have like a white band, right?
Yeah, like a white band.
How disastrous is it to have jumping worm?
Well, if you don't attend to it, then it can become disastrous.
And by attending to it, you just chop their heads off one by one?
Or? No, because
then they clone themselves.
Well, yeah, what you want to because or you might be leaving eggs in their bodies.
Right, this is how.
Yeah, and so what you want to do is just, you get a kill jar. Whenever I see them on a property, I just throw them in the kill jar. You just don't want a large, and you'll see, like, especially in the spring and stuff, oftentimes, like a big mass of them just squiggling around on the surface. They stay on the surface, too. Yeah, well...
Are they jumping around in the kill jar?
They do move, yeah. They like to move actively in wild ways.
And it's a kill jar because you're just sealing up the jar. That's all the oxygen you guys are getting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so intense.
Bye-bye. I'm sorry. I have had a couple workers who say, I can't do it.
The kill process is literally waiting a certain amount of days before you open it up again, or?
Yeah, and then they're dead.
Sorry, but like, I want to know how you're going to kill them.
And then you throw them in the trash.
Yeah.
The trash. Don't put them in your compost.
Hello.
Oh, yeah.
I have so much admiration for all the people in our region that are working towards just getting this place populated with living organisms that could reproduce. It could be an expansive and ever-growing and connected system. And so, the goal is to get as many people as possible in any neighborhood to have a specific amount of native plants on their property so that all the birds that want to come migrating through or even then settle and stay for a while, or, I have to say I have a fondness for skunks, and not a lot of people do, but, I think they're very wonderful creatures, and, opossums, and, there's just, I don't know.
Can we just back up a second? What makes a skunk wonderful? I'm always open to... They're something, an animal that's misaligned or maligned.
Yeah.
Is that the word?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the benefit?
Well, they're very gentle creatures. They just have a protection. They have a protective thing that they do, which is spray people.
And I'm getting the sense they're native to Illinois.
Oh yes, most definitely. They're not imported. But I think what it is they also lend us the opportunity to keep our awareness when we're walking around.
I mean, it's a wake-up call.
Yeah, it's like,
you get sprayed by a skunk.
I got a neighbor. Yeah, okay. And I mean, like one time I was literally sitting in my front yard and I'm talking to someone on the phone and my hand went down and I felt something furry and I looked down and it was a skunk. Fortunately, it didn't get scared and it just walked away.
Oh my gosh.
But does it mean you're doing something right in your garden if you have a skunk visit?
That's a good question. Well, you're certainly providing food for a creature that belongs in the region, right? They take care of your grubs if you have Japanese beetle grubs. They'll eat them right out of your grass because there's a relationship between Japanese beetles and Kentucky bluegrass, which go figure, it's not from Kentucky at all. But it's like there's that.
Where is it from?
Somewhere in Asia or Europe. Basically, there's that relationship, and they do eat grubs. They're adaptable. They take care of some of the invasive species for us a little bit.
Cool.
And then don't possums eat ticks?
Mm-hmm.
So
possums, I love possums.
That's the thing. I love all those animals and insects that are kind of otherwise reviled by people.
And you get to see the power of these natural relationships, right?
Yeah.
There's so many more relationships in the world than we have any idea about that are happening right under our noses constantly. And I think the most exciting thing I love about making native gardens with my clients is they all just like after the first spring bloom and stuff, they just kind of go, oh my God, my garden's alive. It's like it never was alive before. Like you walk onto the usual garden that people have in our region, and there's no life there.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like all of a sudden there's some humming and buzzing and zipping around. And I had one client go, I had my first hummingbird visitation today. It was just like, it's like, yes, isn't it wonderful? It's just like, and we're providing what they need to survive. What I love about really a well done native garden is it's never the same. Like in 2 or 3 weeks, it's a different garden. It's just like, oh, how cool is that? Like, okay, now everything's quiet and it's like, but things are about to pop. And then all of a sudden the next day, whoa, it's popping. And then it's like, oh, but that one's gone and done now. Oh, or like one of my favorite ones that comes in is called Pearly Everlasting. It's a native, kind of lower growing, and it has a blue-gray foliage, which a lot of people just love, and has
I do.
little white flowers on them, and they're just so precious. The thing is, it's a host plant for one of the butterflies in the region. You can see the first round when it comes up and it goes to bloom. Sometimes, if it gets discovered by the insect that it's a host plant for, they'll kind of devastate the plant a little bit, which people kind of can start freaking out if you don't inform them. You're doing your good job. Guess what?
Right.
The birds need these caterpillars to feed their babies. It's like you're producing a food farm for them to be able to take care of their babies. And then when that era is done and you hit the next flush when it would bloom, it's not needed anymore, and the insect's done reproducing. And so you get the beautiful flowers for the rest of the season.
So it's kind of like pruning, really.
In a way, yeah. But also, it's like, oh, I'm a food farm producer for birds, you know, like, and it's not that disruptive if the rest of your garden is blooming well and doing nice things and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, that'll be done soon, and we'll get on to the next phase. And it also reminds us that this is a living world.
Yeah, I think that's what's so interesting. The more kind of traditional European garden, a lot of them are very much about control. And you're always trying to control the look, and there's a lot of like duplication of things, right? So you have like a whole thing that's like all the same height and all the same color, and then like with a native garden, like I was just thinking about the other day, because I was looking, you know, we have all the remain, like all of the plants that are now dead, but they have seed heads and all that stuff. And and it was just, I was just like looking at the height of everything, and I was like, you know, I don't really remember these things growing so tall when they did. Like, it's all just kind of happening underneath your nose, and you're going about your life, and like, but so are all these plants. It's just pretty cool. It's just, I kind of marveled at it. Like, you start at 0 every year.
Yeah.
Like,
and what's amazing to me too is that you can design a native garden. And that's the biggest piece that I think is so important, to do that intersection between the skeptic and the enthusiasts, right? The enthusiasts are going to be there, and they're going to explore, and they're going to experiment, and they're going to do cool stuff, and it's going to be really great. And then there's like the people that are going, yeah, I don't want to disassociate from all my neighbors. I want them to find this acceptable. So that's where I think like the niche of what our business does is it helps people understand how they can use design principles, because redundancy is actually a smart part of planting for natives too, because there's a great book, The Pollinator Victory Garden. And basically, if you can plant 3 square feet of any plant, when the pollinators go to do their collecting, they like to stay with one species at a time, oftentimes. So it's like you're providing for them an easy, pick. So it's like having an apple orchard or something like that. So that's one of the things that's interesting about design that you can do. You can also like make sure that the tidier, neater plants are towards the edge of the beds, and and then you want to make sure you get all that seasonality. So you've got your ephemerals, like everybody goes, I love tulips, well, you can put daffodils and tulips in if you really, really need to, and I'm not against them, but if you put in a shooting star, or you have Camassia hyacinth, native hyacinths. And so there's spring beauties and all these really wonderful, like feeding the insects early in the spring plants that you can put in that are just dainty, and they go away after a while, and then the other things come in.
Julia, can you tell us a couple things that we need to be on the lookout for that are big threats to our gardens?
You guys know about lesser celandine, yes?
Lesser celandine?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
just out competes everything
It's
and then
just
goes
wild.
away. It showed up as early as February of this year. And then it's gone by May. And
So it's kind of a neon yellow.
yeah,
right?
and people think, oh, it's so pretty, and
And
they
it
let
has
it.
like shiny green leaves.
It looks actually a lot like the native swamp marigold, but it's not.
Too aggressive?
Oh yeah.
Too strong and
the
too aggressive?
problem is they have little mini tubers, and then they have bulbils. In other words, they have two ways of reproducing that are really amazing, and they are prolific. And if you don't get them pretty early on in their infestation, they'll take over like an entire lawn, go into all your gardens. But you can dig them out. You have to dig them out like 6 to 8 inches deep.
Oh.
You want to make sure you get your mother plants first. It's good to control it, and it's a good thing to have out there in the public
To know about
consciousness.
controlling it. Okay.
Yeah, that we don't want to have it spreading. If you see a plant in your yard, take it out immediately and with the roots. One of the things they're experimenting with is an ephemeral native, which is Virginia bluebells.
Okay.
That's a competitive plant.
Yeah.
That
one
you
is
can put head to head with the lesser celandine.
yeah. That's one of the things
Okay.
that they're working on. That they're
Okay.
seeing some success.
Oh.
And then another competitor is Pachyra aurea, which is golden seal or something.
Is there anything else that you really want us to know today?
Anything you want to get
Or
out there?
anything else you want to say?
I always say when you're talking eco-functional, remember the fun.
The
It's
fun in eco-functional, not the funk.
no.
Not the funk.
I like the funk too.
You can go funk too. Yeah, it's like fun, funk. It's all in there. The garden will entertain you from now until eternity. Okay.
All right, it's time for the
Plant review.
Woo! Okay, so it's an amelanchier, which there are amelanchiers that are actually
What's that?
native to our region.
What's an amelanchier?
It's a tree. It's a woody,
Okay.
small understory tree.
Uh-huh.
Although it can also take some sun.
So is that a Latin word, amelanchier?
Yeah,
So what's lank and what's ama?
I don't know.
You don't know?
But I know that, for instance, the species that I appreciate so much is a smaller shrub form, which is called the alnifolia. So, okay, you have like George McNabb,
Foreman?
George Foreman. Okay, you have like George Foreman. It's just like with Latin names, you have the family name, which in this case would be amelanchier. And then you have the name of the person, and that's always written in lowercase, and that would be the alnifolia. Now, alnifolia, that one I can give you a relationship to, is shaped like an elm tree. So that the leaf shape is similar to what you would see on an elm tree, but it's that's the shape of the leaf of that species. That species grows smaller and shorter than the regional one, which grows taller. And there are two that are really good in our region, Levis, and so Laevis, and then there's another one which is Arborea, I think. I'm sorry, I'm getting winter brain already setting in, and that's when you take a break as a gardener and you read classical novels and stuff. But anyways,
What do you love about this plant that you're revealing?
what I love about this plant is if you can find the right place for it, it grows beautiful flowers in the spring. It has a wonderful berry that is like a blueberry, but it's like you can eat them right off the shrub or the tree, and it's also beloved by the birds, and sometimes you have to fight the birds to get it. So, have
Okay, and
any
the name-
idea what the popular name is?
Some kind of maybe service
It's
berry?
something very...
Oh, yes! Bravo, Elizabeth.
Wow, Elizabeth.
Or Juneberry is another
Okay.
popular name.
Oh, that's also
Yeah.
serviceberry? Okay.
Yeah, and they do the nice thing about them is their fruit comes quicker than a lot of other fruiting plants. So in that sort of seasonal, looking for some good fruiting plants in your garden, it's an earlier fruit, and then you have after that come raspberries.
What is an early fruit then? That's when?
Oh, like
June.
June. Oh.
I think the deer have eaten. I've never had a chance to see.
Really?
Yeah, I think they're really into the leaves of the serviceberry that we have. Is that weird?
Bummer.
Yeah, it is a bummer.
That sounds Latin for bummer.
That's actually the New York.
I was trying to make a joke about the Amelanker, but like, are you a lanker? Oh,
I'm a lanker.
No, that's not a good enough joke.
But anyways, so and the Regent serviceberry is the one that I really enjoy. It's from the West. Don't tell me.
You know, I think Robin Wall Kimmerer just came out with a book called something serviceberry.
Yeah, I mean the plant is like totally one
Breeding
of the
sweet grass.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's one of the keystone species that really serves nature in so many ways. And it can be a nesting place for birds. It can be, like I'm sure there's insects that associate with it. It's just...
And I'm going to guess you have one because it sounds like you just like competing
Yes.
with the birds and jumping out there and eating them.
Yes. But I do share.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it's a little bit fussy. It likes a little water. And I put it like in this place where the excess water from my patio just goes into this little swale I put in there. And I have very sandy soils here. So it's just the right formula. That plant is happy as a clam. And it produces, and it's in a similar siting on one of my clients' yards here in the region. It's so funny because we sited 2 other Amelankers on the property and no go. They were not happy there. So it's like, that's what I love about plants too. It's like, they tell you, no,
You just
this
have to
is
listen.
not the place.
Pay attention.
Okay, where do you want to be? So, and then the more you learn about the plants, well, I'm never going to put him on a dry ridge anymore. It's like, he'll never grow there or thrive. So it's just like learning about your kids too, like, hey, he's a good baseball player. This one could care less, so give him a book.
Oh my gosh, it was so fun talking with you, Julia.
It's
Likewise.
It's very inspiring. I wanna do something for rain capture.
Great.
Yeah. Well, we need to do another chat with you
We'll stop here.
further on. I know you have a lot more to share.
I love you guys. It's so much fun to play with you. I just like that's the way I see my life. I get to play in people's gardens with them.
Yeah.
And it's just
thanks for playing with us today.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work.
We'll try.
We'll promote you.
You too.
Oh wait,
as well.
one last question though. How can people find out more about the Spirited Gardener?
Oh, we have a website.
Okay.
You can go to spiritedgardener.com. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Have a great one.
You too.